Forget the giant turkey legs, the roaring stone fireplaces, and the merry singing you see in Hollywood movies. If you actually walked into an English tavern in the 11th century, the smell alone would knock you flat on the muddy floor. You are about to step into the brutal, smoke-filled reality of the year 1150, right after the Norman conquest. There is no romantic chivalry here, only a desperate, grinding struggle for survival. Before we push open that heavy wooden door and show you what you're really going to eat tonight, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You are a peasant standing in the freezing, rain-soaked mud of a 12th century English village. You're exhausted. Your bones ache from 14 hours of back-breaking agricultural labor. You need a drink. But you don't go looking for a glowing neon sign or a grand building called a tavern. Taverns are high-end businesses selling expensive imported wine, and they cater exclusively to your brutal, French-speaking Norman overlords. If you walk into one of those, you'll likely be beaten or arrested. Instead, you look for a neighbor's house. You scan the cramped, leaning wattle and daub huts until you spot an ale stake shoved out of a front window. It's just a long wooden pole with a bushy evergreen branch tied to the end. This is the universal sign that the alewife, the woman of the house, has just finished brewing a fresh, highly perishable batch of drink. You push open the door. The first thing that hits you is a physical wall of pungent odor. Stale sweat, wet wool, wood smoke, and the sour tang of boiling grain. You sit on a rough wooden bench. You don't order water. Drinking the local water is a gamble with death, teeming with unseen bacteria that causes dysentery. Instead, you are handed a wooden tankard of ale. But don't expect a crisp, golden, carbonated lager. Hops haven't been introduced to England yet. What you are drinking is essentially liquid bread. It is thick, cloudy, flat, and warm. Because there are no hops to preserve it, the alewife flavors it with grute, a bitter medicinal blend of wild herbs like yarrow and mugwort. It tastes sour, earthy, and gritty. Yet, you drink it eagerly. In fact, everyone in the room is drinking it. Even the toddlers are given small beer, a weaker version of this brew, because it is the only safe hydration available. It provides the massive caloric boost you need to survive. But liquid bread alone won't get you through the freezing night. You need solid food. And what is simmering in the pot over the fire is a testament to extreme human endurance. You wipe the bitter foam from your mouth and look toward the center of the dark room. There is no roasted beef. There is no sizzling pork. Fresh meat is a luxury strictly reserved for the nobility. Instead, you are handed a wooden bowl filled with the undisputed champion of the working class diet, pottage. It is a thick, murky, endlessly simmering vegetable and grain stew. It's made of whatever could be scavenged or grown: cabbage, onions, leeks, beans, and oats. Day after day, new ingredients are just tossed into the same unwashed iron pot. If you are incredibly lucky, the alewife might have thrown in a tough, heavily salted scrap of old bacon or a marrow bone that has been boiled a dozen times already. You don't get a metal spoon. Metal is too expensive. Instead, you are handed a chunk of maslin bread. Forget the soft, refined white manchet bread the lords eat. Maslin is dark, incredibly dense, and baked from a rough mix of rye and wheat. It is baked so hard that you literally use the crust as an edible spoon to scrape the thick pottage into your mouth. The coarse grit in the flour is slowly grinding down your teeth with every bite you take. You might be tempted to improve this miserable meal. Perhaps you think about sneaking into the nearby forest to catch a wild rabbit or a pheasant to throw into your stew. Don't. You are living under the brutal Norman forest laws. The forests are the exclusive hunting grounds of the king. If the guards catch you with a poached rabbit, the punishment isn't a fine. The punishment is mutilation. They will blind you or chop off your fingers, ensuring you can never hunt or work again. You eat your bitter cabbage stew and you stay quiet. But as the night deepens, the atmosphere in this cramped, dark hut begins to shift from exhaustion to absolute chaos. As the sun sets outside, the alehouse becomes the absolute epicenter of village life. It is the only escape you have from your own freezing hut, which you currently share with your livestock to keep warm. The lighting in the room is terrible. There are no beeswax candles here. Those are for the church and the rich. The room is dimly lit by rush lights, the dried pith of the rush plant soaked in rendered animal fat. As they burn, they spit hot grease and emit a foul smell exactly like burning meat, adding to the suffocating atmosphere. Yet, despite the smoke burning your eyes, the room is alive. The alcohol is taking effect. The psychological anesthetic is working. In the corner, a traveling minstrel might be aggressively plucking a wooden instrument, shouting crude, bawdy songs that would make a modern comedian blush. But right next to you, the real danger is brewing. Men are hunched over a rough wooden table, slamming bone dice down in high-stakes gambling games like Hazard. In a world where you own almost nothing, gambling your meager earnings is an intoxicating, desperate thrill. Suddenly, an accusation of cheating rings out. The music stops. In 12th century England, there is no local police force to call. Every man carries an eating knife on his belt. A lost wager over sheep knuckles can instantly escalate into explosive, bloody violence right there on the dirt floor. You keep your head down and take another sip of your thick ale. And then, cutting through the shouting and the smoke, you hear it. A sound that brings a sudden, terrifying chill to the room. Dong, dong, dong. It is the couvre-feu bell, the curfew. Introduced by the paranoid Norman conquerors to prevent both accidental fires and secret rebellions, the ringing of this bell means the night is abruptly over. All fires must be covered. All gatherings must disperse. You drain the last gritty dregs of your ale. You step out of the stifling heat of the alehouse and back into the freezing, pitch-black English night. There are no street lights. The darkness is absolute and deeply psychological. As you begin the muddy walk back to your hut, you hear the distant, unmistakable howling of wolves, a very real apex predator that still roams the English countryside in the 11th century. You finally reach your home. You collapse onto a straw pallet infested with lice and fleas. You pull a rough woolen blanket over yourself, listening to the heavy breathing of the family pig sleeping just a few feet away. You close your eyes, your stomach heavy with maslin bread and bitter ale, knowing you will wake up before dawn to do it all over again. When we look back at the medieval alehouse, we shouldn't just see the mud, the terrible food, and the lack of sanitation. We must recognize it for what it truly was, a desperately needed sanctuary. The thick, sour ale and the rock-hard bread were the literal glue that held these fragile farming communities together. These people were the unsung, forgotten engine of history. They did not have the imported spices or the fine wines of their lords, but they possessed an astonishing iron resilience. They literally built their lives out of the mud they stood on, surviving a brutal world one heavy bowl of pottage and one dark night at a time. If you survived this journey into a medieval alehouse, let us know in the comments what historical era you'd like to experience next. And make sure to subscribe to uncover more hidden, gritty truths of our past.